Hello, I'm James Helder. Welcome to the January transfer special. This time it's a turn of Manchester United. I'm quite fortunate enough to be joined by my Manchester United fanatics, Abid and Usman. Gentlemen, I hope you had a good holidays and a good New Year's. How are we all? Good, good. How's things,
I'm
Usman?
doing well. I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Love that. Love that
Yeah,
energy.
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here. Obviously, the weather's absolutely shocking, but as you can see, I've got my blanket, so we're all good. We're all good. We're ready to go.
Love that. I just want to say the weather is definitely universal. It is shocking here in London today. It's torrential rain. We had a monsoon yesterday, so I'm sure you boys can empathise with the weather where you boys are as well. Abid, how are you, my man?
Definitely.
Oh yeah. Me and Usman live so far apart. It's like we definitely live like three doors
I
down.
can literally see it from my room. Okay.
Love that.
And yeah, so obviously the weather's a bit bad, but hopefully got some football tonight to look forward to.
Love that. Love that. Now, the reason I've got you both here, as much as I do love discussing Michael Fish, aka the weather, I would like to talk to you about Manchester United and their January transfer window plans. So, looking from the outside in, okay, there's been a lot of talk regarding a striker coming into Old Trafford. I've seen the likes of Wout Weghorst being bandied about potentially. What are your thoughts on bringing in Wout Weghorst as a striker to Manchester United? And I'm going to go straight to Usman on this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that has been said on within media in general regarding the signing of Weghorst. Like for me personally, first things first, right? A lot of people look at the Burnley record. He didn't have a great time at Burnley. I believe it was like 2 goals,
Mm.
17 games or something along those marks. However, he was absolutely phenomenal at Wolfsburg, and to be fair, he's doing okay at Besiktas. Granted, a poorer league, as is the Bundesliga, as we say, Bundesliga tax, so to speak. But for me personally, right, I just think he's been blown out of proportion, to be quite frank with you. First and foremost, he's a plan B.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, he gives us a completely different dimension in the manner in which we play. If he was on the pitch, I mean, at the moment, we have very similar stylistic players in the front line.
Yes.
Rashford, Martial, Sancho, Anthony, Garnacho. Granted, they all have different traits and they bring different things to the team. But you'd kind of put them under one category per se. And Weghorst definitely doesn't sit on that table. He's completely different. He's a different dimension, and I think is extremely integral for any attack to have different sort of weapons to that arsenal. And I think Weghorst definitely brings that. Is he the most potent striker? Absolutely not. Is he our number one choice? Probably not. But nevertheless, you saw what Eric Ten Hag did with Sebastian Haller at Ajax. He's a similar mold to Haller. Granted, he's a
Yes.
lot taller than Haller, and he might not be as good with his feet, so to speak. But in general, he's that mold of player, and I trust Ten Hag to potentially bring a similar style of play what he did at Ajax when he had Sebastian Haller leading the line.
Mm. Before we talk about Weghorst pros and cons, I want to get your instant reaction to the breaking news that Weghorst could be joining. Abid, what are your thoughts on Weghorst?
So my opinion is quite different to Usman's because I don't feel like I disagree when he says it was plan B. I don't think it was plan B. I think it's plan C. I think plan A was Gakpo, plan B was Felix, and then plan C was Weghorst. So I think as a striker, it is. I know this can sound mental, but my option would be Osimhen from Napoli. Big
Victor
target
Oshimen.
man.
Yes.
Yeah, can get in behind lines, and he'd be the target forward that we need. But he's a poacher at the same time. Weghorst he's this is sound mad. He's like a Netherlands version of Peter Crouch. Like he's the same. He's the same mold of striker. You're just gonna lob that ball up there, and you're gonna get headers because the Osman might as well sign me, about the same height as me. Might as well get me in there.
Yeah, but your shooting is terrible, bro. We don't, we want to actually score goals.
So yeah, as a striker though, but there was something that I did learn about Weghorst. When he was in the Prem, he obtained the most presses per 90 than any other striker, which I thought was interesting because a man so big, I didn't know he would be. He was first for pressing in the whole Prem
Wow.
when he joined the league. So I think that's with the gegenpress. That's what Ten Hag is going to be looking for. Obviously, he's not going to be starting week in, week out, but similar to Cavani, when we brought Cavani on for that last 25 minutes, he'd run at the defenders, and then they'd have to just get rid of the ball, which is where you can start building your attacks. And the thing is, I'm going to be optimistic because I'm really annoyed about Gakpo in the first place. That really did my head in. We didn't get him.
I didn't want him. I'm not gonna
So,
lie.
really?
No,
Yeah.
you said Gakpo and Felix, two players that Man United should not be signing. I mean, Plan A, I don't think Plan A was Gakpo for striker. I mean, Gakpo is a great player and he's a great addition to Liverpool. Don't get me wrong, for the price, and he's a fantastic signing. But he's not what Manchester United need. If you actually look at our team, we need an out and out number nine. We don't need someone that could potentially lick the play like Felix. You know, Felix again, he's a fantastic player, and I'm sure he'd be a great success at Chelsea. But he's not what we need. We need someone that's going to put the ball in the back of the net. You know, it might not be pretty, so to speak. You mentioned Cavani there, and I think for me, we need a Cavani-esque player, a fox in the box who's going to score goals. I mean, Martial for me, he does everything else apart from put the ball in the net. Granted, he's shown that he's capable of doing that in the past, but for me, we just needed. You know what? I would have loved if we could just sign a Pete Hernandez because he would have been perfect for what we need at the moment. So somebody in the box, just get your end, get yourself on the end of anything. And I don't think Felix or Gakpo, all those guys.
What Wout Weghorst brings is his hold-up play as well. You've got so much pace in the team. If you've got someone to win that initial first ball and hold the play up to link in the likes of Rashford, Sancho, Garnacho, you're going to have that overpowered big man, which you haven't had for many years, probably since Cavani's left. He's so good on the press, Wout Weghorst. He's so hungry. He's someone that thrives on shutting down play and getting scraps of chances. Not to mention his aerial threat, being 6'9" or however tall he is. I don't see him as a bad option for Manchester United. What would you say his cons are? That's his pros from my point of view. What would you say Wout Weghorst's cons are? I'm going to go to Abid on this one.
For me, obviously, I'm not going to say I've watched Weghorst for the last 7 years. For me, it's just the age thing because it doesn't fit the brand of United. That's the only thing. He doesn't fit the journey that we're going on. But granted, we're still owned by the Glazers, so he just doesn't fit the United brand. We're meant to be signing someone in the age range of 20 to 24, get a young striker who we can develop. This is a striker that's just there to score goals. I understand at the moment he's a good stopgap, but come the summer, if he's gone, what we're looking at, I'm seeing reports of Harry Kane, which is so unrealistic, and things like that. But the only problem with Weghorst is his age, and I'm not sure about injury record. I don't know what his injury record is like, so I couldn't really comment on that.
Before we go into the Harry Kane and Victor Oshimen, I want to give Weghorst a little bit more time. My lad had him on FIFA last year, and he swore that Weghorst was an absolute player. Do you think he can, under Ten Hag in particular, who likes that pressing, big, aggressive player, do you think he could get the best out of Weghorst? I'm going to go to Osimhen on this one.
Without a shadow of a doubt, I mean, I've been kind of alluded to his age. I think that plays absolutely zero bearing on this signing. I mean, it's a 6-month stopgap. Obviously, we don't want to go to what's going to happen in summer potentially. But for me personally, I just think people are massively overlooking the Sebastian Haller thing. I mean, a lot of people wrote Sebastian Haller after West Ham, and he was absolutely sensational.
Yes.
He's a similar profile player. Granted, Haller is probably better. But for me personally, our fans have just gotten to the point now that they need to trust the manager. At the end of the day, everything that he's done so far has been absolutely spot on. I mean, a lot of people didn't really know much about Lisandro Martinez, and he's been absolute revelation. A lot of people wrote Casemiro off before he walked through the door, and he's been one of the best signings, in recent times for Manchester United. And for me personally, I trust Erik Ten Hag. I think he can definitely get the best out of him. He gives us that other option, as I've already mentioned, and as you mentioned correctly, he gives that option for Rashford to potentially run off someone. I think Martial is very good at hold up as well, to be fair to the guy. But when you've got a 6'6" target man, it's a completely different ball game. It gives us something completely new to what we already have. As I mentioned earlier, I think it's important that with any team that you have different assets to your attack. And at the moment, we are becoming extremely one-dimensional, very reliant on Rashford in particular at the moment. And Weghorst brings something completely different to the pitch. I mean, it's a constant threat for the opposition. We're quite poor from set pieces in general. The crossing from wide areas isn't particularly good. But when you've got someone who's 6'6", you don't even have to be good at crossing at this point. You just put the ball into an area and he'll attack it. He's very aggressive as well. Abid actually mentioned the pressing start, which I wasn't actually aware of, which is a massive plus. The way how Eric Ten Hag wants to play, obviously, defending from the front is extremely integral in the modern game. And if he's got that as well under his locker, then for me, it can only be a positive. It's very low risk. And if he only scores 10 goals, I think that would be a success.
I agree. I've got to take a minute to give Lisandro Martinez the praise that Osimhen has mentioned. I, for one, was so critical of him when he came to the Premier League with his
Told you.
Yeah, you did mention it, Abid, but I'm going to put my hands up where I get things wrong. And I admit I did make a mistake. I didn't think he would handle the physicality of the league. Ten Hag has made some absolute massive calls, okay? Decisions that cost a manager a job if you get them wrong. He dropped captain Harry Maguire. He dropped club legend and probably the most successful player of our era for Manchester United in Cristiano Ronaldo. And the form improved. The team improved. The morale improved. I've got to give Eric Ten Hag the credit he deserves. I think he's done a great job so far. And I think he's guiding. You only got to look at the league position that Manchester United now find themselves in to trust his process. It's a no-brainer, if I'm being brutally honest. Okay, let's look at Victor Oshimen. He's another player that's been linked potentially with Manchester United. Where do you stand on him? Do you think he could be a player? What's your take on that? And I'm going to go straight to Osimhen on this one.
I mean, look, I'm not going to say I've watched a great deal of Napoli. However, from what I have seen of him, he looks like he's got a lot about his game. I think for me personally, he isn't my preferred choice. I wouldn't go for him. I do like his game, but it just gives me Lukaku vibes for whatever reason. I don't know what it is. I just feel like every time I've seen him play, look, again, I don't watch Napoli week in, week out, so feel free to correct me, but every time I've seen him play, he's very, very clumsy on the ball. I mean, off the ball, I would say his movement is fantastic, especially running in behind. He's got pace, he's got power, and his finishing is quite good for a striker of his size as well. So without a shadow of a doubt, there's definitely pros to his game. But for me, he's not the kind of player I'd want at Manchester United. And the price that they're going to be asking for him is absolutely ridiculous. I think there's better players out in the market. So I wouldn't personally take him.
I hear that. Abid, what's your take on Oshimen? How would you feel about him coming to Old Trafford?
For me, when we got Igalo, we were linked with Osimhen at the same time. And Osimhen came out and said, I'm a Man United fan, but I'm not going to sign for United because I'm going to push Igalo out the team, who's like a national hero or something. Something like that. I was on the line. So we could have got Osimhen, I think about 3 years ago. So he wants to come to the club. I reckon he'd be about... This is the problem with the market. You can't justify like 70, 80 million for that. But like he scores in big games. That's what he does. Like I remember, I think it was a goal against Roma where the ball just comes over the top and he just hits it on a half volley first time. I'm thinking, but I've been watching a lot of Napoli recently because of Osimhen, because of Kvichka as well, one of my favourite players at the moment. And it's just a good, prospering squad. But there was a striker that I forgot about that I remember now, Vlahovic.
I was about to say I would rather take Vlahovic over Osimhen every day of the week.
Especially because of the price, because Juventus own a lot of crap. I feel like he'd be available for around probably 50 because of how much issues Juventus having.
Yes.
And he's a bit more proven, I'd say. Like, he obviously was top scorer a couple of years ago. And the problem with him is, though, his injury record is not very good.
I've got to be honest, when I hear his name, I sort of get a bit angry. As an Arsenal fan, we spent so long pursuing Vlahovic. I expected him to join. And then Juventus gazumped us at the last minute and he was saying we're not a big club and this and that. So I just hope you're enjoying your time at Juve. Hope you and Pogba are really happy where you are.
Well, they're doing all right at the moment. Don't like I said, win streak if I'm not wrong.
Yeah,
they're somewhat turned it around.
Yeah, they're doing.
But just to jump in there, like obviously Vlahovic, I would probably go for him over Oshimen every day of the week. But for me, it's an absolute no-brainer. It has to be Harry Kane for me at Man United. I mean, I know a lot of people will say his age, etc. I just don't think it comes into play. If you're that good as Harry Kane is, he's absolutely top drawer. He's actually world class. I mean, there's not many England players that you can actually say, no, what, he's proven himself time and time again. You know, you see with a lot of England players, they're massively overhyped. But I think Kane deserves all the plaudits he gets. His overall game is actually underrated in world football for me. I don't think he gets the plaudits he deserves. His ability to bring other players into the game, his passing range is outrageous, his vision, etc. I mean, everything about the guy's game is perfect, and he would be sensational for Manchester United. I actually would go out on a whim and say if we sign Harry Kane and Frankie de Jong, I think we could win the league. Like, I actually think that's how much of a difference like Kane and Frankie de Jong would make. And I know you're laughing at me, which is completely fine. But the example I would use is if you actually look at Manchester United last season, if you look at our games consistently, we would ship 3 or 4 goals a game, if not 3 or 4 big chances a game, without a shadow of a doubt. And we basically acquired 2 players in Alessandro Martinez and Casemiro. Granted, Casemiro is without a shadow of a doubt bona fide CDM, one of the greatest we've ever seen. But Alessandro Martinez came in with not much expectations from the media within England, but they have completely revolutionized the defense for many different aspects. Obviously, Casemiro has been sensational in the pocket. And I honestly think if we get another 2 quality players in Frankie de Jong and Harry Kane, they could definitely do that for their attack. I think their attack is still needed a bit of help. But to come back to Harry Kane, his overall game is absolutely sensational. I think he's the best striker in the league. I know a lot of people will still say Haaland, which is completely understandable given his stats. But for me, if they're both the same age, I'm taking Harry Kane every day of the weekend, without a doubt. With 1 year left on his contract in summer, we have to get Kane for 60, 70 million, and then obviously build around him.
How much do you think it would take to tempt Tottenham's resolution or resoluteness, rather, in getting Harry Kane to move clubs? How much money would you have to put on the table to tempt Tottenham?
The issue for me with the Kane situation is the fact that it's Daniel Levy that we'd have to deal with. I mean, that guy's an absolute nightmare. He's shown time and time again. He's shown with, and look, fair play to him. You know, he's getting his money for his club, and you got to respect that. He's a great businessman. But from a Man United perspective, it would have to take Kane to push the deal, I think, for it to actually happen. We saw when he was linked to Manchester City and he was on strike. He was at the golf range, etc., doing what he was doing. Because he's got 1 year left on his contract, I do think the ball's more in his court than it was when Man City came knocking. So I do think there would be a temptation for them to sell. However, just to answer your question, I'm thinking 60, 70 million, but I've got a feeling Levy will still say 100 million.
Yeah, I don't think 60 to 70 million gets him. I'm being brutally honest. I don't think that's enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand why you'd say that because of who would be dealing with. But like I said, if Kane was to push the move with 1 year on his contract left, surely they'd have to sell him at that point.
The problem and issue you've
basically lose it for free.
The problem you've got is I can't see Kane wanting to vilify himself with the Tottenham fans. He spent.
Is it vilify? Is it though? You think
he's done it with Man City? Honestly, God, the amount of Spurs fans I know that literally hated him at that point. I mean, they're forgotten now because he's scoring goals, but he basically handed in a transfer request and went on strike just to get that move, and it didn't happen. So
he still had.
For me, listen.
Go on, sorry, go on, Osman.
I was about to say, for me, as a big club we are, obviously Spurs are not in our stratosphere in terms of club size. I don't even know why they're in the top 6 conversation. They're a small team still, but look, if he has any ambition and he actually wants to do something with his life, he'll make the move. I mean, we've already got Berbatov off him. We've already signed other players in the past. Yeah. Not to mention your striker, but Van Persie 2.0 potentially in terms of the impact that he can have on this Manchester United team. I genuinely believe, obviously Van Persie took us to the league, but I genuinely believe your Kane has the capabilities of having that impact. And for me, if I'm Man United, listen, just speak to Kane on a private, do what you got to do, get him on Manchester United next season. I think for me, it's a no-brainer. Also, I will add, if we do get Arab money, there's a lot of speculation that we will get Arab owners. They've got money to burn as well, so I don't even think it's a problem.
Harry Kane being the England captain, and when he's away with those lads, and he's looking at the trophies that some of those lesser players have got in their cabinet, medals and accolades, and always a personal accolades, it must be a little bit frustrating for the man. If I'm being brutally honest, when you're looking at the medals that Foden and Grealish have got, Henderson, the medals that he's won with Liverpool, and then Harry Kane, arguably better than all of those players individually, is left with some small individual accolades. So you can understand his wanting to move and his frustrations. It's just whether the deal can be done. Abid, where do you stand on it? Give me your take.
I was just thinking now. I think that obviously the 1 year situation with the contract that brings the value down on the player a lot. So I feel like this is gonna be a madness. But if we said like 70 plus Martial, because I think Spurs wanted Martial like a couple of years ago. I feel like they. I don't know if I'm wrong on that, but I feel like last year Spurs wanted Martial. So I think like 70 plus Martial could tempt them. However, he is one of the best strikers in the world, and Spurs wanted 150 for him. Obviously, they can't get anywhere near that because of the contract situation. But I was thinking about it today because I'm not really the biggest admirer of Kane. Like obviously, the penalty just upset me, but I knew it was going to happen. And for me, it's the link up play that he brings to Tottenham is good, but he takes out so much from that team as well because he has to carry the team. I said, like I know, no offense to Tottenham, they are not a well functioning club. The midfield is good, but it's lackluster. They just have two batteries running about, and they're not really playmakers. So Kane's got to pick up the ball himself, from midfield, get it up to Son or Kulusevski, and then get back in the box to score it. We have the players there to do that. We just need a striker that's going to be in that box and finish them chances.
Do you think Kane want to play like that? He's adjusted his game, like you mentioned, to come deep, to play balls. Do you think he just wants to be in the box number 9 finisher of moves? Do you think?
No, I don't think so because I think he wants to show off what he can do as a footballer. Like he can do everything. He's got that long switch across the pitch. He can get in the box, head it. He can finish nicely. Like he has most things. The only thing that scares me, and this is probably because I'm a FIFA merchant, is the pace. Like the pace, he doesn't. He's not really. He's not really got much pace to get in behind the lines because, like, typically as a United striker, we're looking for someone to get in behind the lines and finish the chances. And for me, like that's the thing. I'm not saying Kane is. I never said once Kane is a bad player because he has no pace. Kane is
Oh my
outstanding
god.
for what he does.
I've got to speak here. We cannot
Go on.
judge players on the caliber of FIFA. I know I mentioned
No.
being good.
I meant I don't play FIFA anymore, but I'm just saying like
No
pace-wise.
one on FIFA ever signs the likes of Lampard and Gerrard, and they're probably two of the best England midfielders. Paul Scholes, even. They're some of the greatest players we've had. And
That's such a ridiculous.
They can't get a
statement.
game in Abid's FIFA team. So what do we do? Do we write off their careers? I don't know.
That's it.
Too
We don't
slow.
know.
It's
He
tough.
scored literally 20 plus goals for like about 8 seasons in a row. And we're not talking 1 season, 2 seasons. And he's been in a poor Spurs team for like the last 3, 4 seasons. And he's still put stupid numbers. I'm not even someone that looks at stats. I don't even look at stats, but the stats literally do not lie with Harry Kane. I mean, the notion that he's not quick enough is Rooney wasn't. Pardon me, Rooney wasn't particularly quick in his twilight of his years, but he was still a sensational footballer because of his IQ. And I think Kane, for me, there's so many players that I'm just thinking in my head that aren't particularly quick as strikers, and they're absolutely phenomenal. I mean,
This is the thing.
the fact that you've just ruled him out based on pace alone is just ridiculous. I mean, no wonder why you want Oshimen because he's just a pace hole. Like, I mean, he's just a pace abuser. You play it in the end, you get the end of it, he uses his power, etc. I was thinking why you said Oshimen because I was like, there was no reason to pick him over Kane. And obviously, you've shown
No,
him
I
out.
never picked him over Kane. I just said the one that I would like is comparison wise, Kane. Osimhen's more realistic to happen than Kane.
Kane's going to be an end of the season transfer. I could not see Levy letting him go in January.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen now.
Pay
we got no money.
Astronomical money, and I can't see that happening at the moment. Kane over acceleration over the first 10 yards is pretty good. There's a reason why he scored this amount of goals. When you've not got lightning get behind the man pace, you find ways to adapt. And Kane clearly is world class. He is probably in the elite bracket of finishers. Stats don't lie. Men lie, women lie. Stats don't lie. So you've got to give Kane the respect that he is due for that. Now, let's talk a little bit about the owners. Are we still full on Glazers out in Manchester at the moment, or have we found a common ground with the owners that have spent fortunes on the club that no one seems to like because they take out a small dividend in a business they own once a year?
Get me some Arabs. That's what I'm saying. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say.
Arab money, man. Enough of this. Enough of this. Glazers washed out wannabe owners, man. Just bring in the Arabs, man. I don't even care which country it is at this point. Dubai, Qatar, whoever. Dubai's not a country, but UAE, Qatar, whoever wants us, you can have it. Like, just by all means, get these guys gone. I mean, look, I've got a season ticket at Old Trafford. I think Abid has as well, if I'm not wrong. The stadium is absolutely battered. I mean, every time I go, I'm just baffled at how much rust there is everywhere. You know, it's leaking roofs galore. I mean, the club is just so far behind other teams from top to bottom in terms of infrastructure. They've had absolutely no influence on the club, you know, off the pitch, so to speak. All they care about is making money. Yes, they'll buy players, but that money isn't theirs. It's not me Nabbit only Manchester United and claiming we buy players but we don't put a penny into it. So by all means, enough is enough. I think this is a universal opinion in the Manchester United fan base. They need to go ASAP. That's the only way we're gonna actually move forward. And now we've actually got a manager in Eric Ten Hag who's actually trying to lift the standards of Manchester United. I mean, the fact that he dropped Rashford, who's been our most informed player, just because he was late to a meeting, says everything you need to know. We now need owners and a structure behind him that actually elevate Manchester United. They've had enough opportunity to rectify the issues. They've not done it. So, yeah, they need to go ASAP.
Manchester United, clearly one of the biggest global brands in football. Carrington's falling to bits. Old Trafford's got leaking roofs. You're obviously questioning the love of your owners, the Glazers. It's got to be surely time for someone to come home with big money and buy the Glazers out. Do you think it will happen, or do you think it's paper talk? Abid, what's your take on it?
I think it will happen, but to who it depends. I think it'll happen at the end of the season. Or I think they might sell the club within the first quarter. I think that's what David Ornstein was reporting.
Yeah,
He's quite credible.
Forgot to mention, not to mention Ronaldo's comments about the chef. What's the chef done?
Ronaldo's next. That was sad times, but is what it is. So I feel like they're gonna sell the club within the next quarter. If they don't, oh my god, I don't know what I'm gonna do, because this is why I've allowed them for this transfer window, because I know they're selling, so they're not gonna spend. This is why it's calm that we're not gonna sign who I wanted us to sign.
You happy? Are you happy Cristiano Ronaldo has left the club under the circumstances he has? What's your take on it? I'm gonna go straight to Osimhen.
In terms of the circumstances, no, I would have liked to have seen him go out in a more glorious way, so to speak. I feel like he's gone off on an extremely bitter note, which is sad to see. Like, I love Ronaldo. I've loved him since I was a young lad growing up watching him, the famous red shirt. But yeah, for me, it's disappointing. I know a lot of people have spoken about his intentions with his comments, in particular the comments he made about the Glazers, the ownership, the facilities, etc. And yeah, there's probably truth in it when people saying he's saving face, he's trying to win the fans back. And to be honest, I couldn't care less regarding that notion. I don't care if he's saving face. At the end of the day, he spoke out on the Glazers, which is something a lot of ex-pros have not done. He had absolutely nothing to lose. He's Cristiano Ronaldo. He's a big brand in himself. So, he knew he could say what he wanted. And I appreciate him saying that, regardless of whether his intentions were true or not. I think it was important that the spotlight was shone on them again. Was it the final nail in the coffin for them to pick up and sell? Potentially not, but nevertheless, it does draw more bad blood towards their name, and that's all, as a Manchester United fan, that I can ask for. So in that sense, he did a lot of good. However, there was a lot of stuff that he definitely should not have said, and it was extremely toxic. I mean, every single game, without a shadow of a doubt, the story was about Ronaldo. I mean, there was a moment, I think it was the Fulham game. Garnacho scores. Yeah, it was the Fulham game. Garnacho scores the last-minute winner. I mean, it was an extremely important moment for him on a personal level, and not one news outlet, not one bit of media covered that actual moment itself. Everything was about Ronaldo. It completely overshadowed a kid, 18-year-old's moment, and stuff like that for me doesn't sit right with me. It's not about Ronaldo. It's about the club at the end of the day, regardless of how much I love him as a player and as a person. No one's bigger than a football club, and for me, I didn't like the fact that he was constantly overshadowing the good work that Ten Hag has done, and quite clearly he was disrupting the dressing room because it seems extremely harmonious since he's gone. So, didn't end well, but it was definitely the right conclusion for both parties.
You think his interview with Pierce, "Get your jab or you'll be ostracised from society," Morgan, was more in benefit of Ronaldo to get him released from his contract by the club, rather than speaking out for the benefit of the club? And we're going to go straight to Abid on this one.
I just think it was more beneficial for Piers Morgan, to be honest. Like, if we look at, obviously, Piers Morgan knows what he's doing. And for me, I stand by Ronaldo. The only thing I don't stand by with is when he dissed the manager. That's too far. I think everything else, what he said about Glazers, what he said about the club, how it's old, run down, he's not wrong because he is the footballer commercially. I know probably playing wise, I don't know, but commercially he is the footballer. He cannot leave the club in 2009 and come back in 2021 and still have the same like infrastructure. That's just mental. It's like going, it's just crazy. So I feel like his expectation for the club dropped instantly, and it was frustrating for him. So I'm not, but then again, I'm not going to say Ronaldo's right about everything because I don't think he was, and I'm good. I'm happy that we're playing good football now. That's what I'm happy about. Obviously, I think when I first met Osimhen was like back then when Ronaldo was actually at the club at the start. So that's when we first discussed. We spoke about Man United. I was probably about 7, 8 then. So growing up then, watching Ronaldo play football and Rooney and Tevez, and then have it snatched away from you, to have it back, it was just amazing. I felt like that little 8-year-old again. Like just
You
that's why
mentioned. Sorry, Abid.
And I kind of like, a part of me knew that it would end badly, and it would tarnish his legacy slightly. But do you know when we get older, like 10, 15 years down the line, this will just be a blip. It will be like, we'll remember what he did for us in the Champions League, remember that first Newcastle game. And it's just like, and obviously the best thing was obviously Osimhen went to the Newcastle game. I actually went to see him play against Arsenal where he scored
I
2
went to
goals.
the Newcastle game as well. I covered his return.
Oh
It
wow!
was absolutely buzzing there.
Atmosphere was sensational that day, man. I'll always remember it.
I was so ill I couldn't go. But then I went a couple of weeks later when we beat Newcastle, not Newcastle, when we beat Arsenal 2-1. That was amazing. It was a very good game. We didn't deserve to win, but to hear that the celebration is just probably one of the maddest things I've heard in my life.
I can tell you, the Newcastle game was such a special atmosphere. I covered it for football. I came up to cover the day, and the fans were all emotional. I'm seeing grown men crying, grown men in tears at the return of Cristiano Ronaldo. Hardcore Manchester United fans and fans that had travelled from all across the world had came in for that precise moment. It was quite a magical thing. Quite a magical thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the game as well. Obviously, I'm lucky that I got to sit with my brother as well. That was literally one of my, I would say, obviously, managed winning a couple of trophies here and there, which haven't happened recently. But that's up there in the last 10 years for me, without a shadow of a doubt. I just think the atmosphere was ridiculous. That's the best atmosphere I've experienced at Old Trafford for a long, long time. I mean, it was electric. That was the only way you can, explain it. We were absolutely diabolical as well in the game. But who was there to save us? Cristiano Ronaldo on 2 occasions, of course, getting the opening goal and then an important third goal as well. It was something I'll always cherish. But yeah, for me, I wish him all the best in Saudi, but it was the right thing for both parties.
Hardest debate for any Manchester United fan. Who is the GOAT? Messi or Ronaldo?
Yeah, Messi for me as well, actually, which is probably a surprise because we've got 2 Man United fans here. But I've been Team Messi since the start, to be honest. I've never really been on Team Ronaldo's side. But I would say Ronaldo's the greatest goal scorer of all time. I don't think he wants that label, but I would say he's the greatest goal scorer of all time. Again, stats don't lie. I mean, he's absolutely ridiculous. Regardless if Messi overtakes him or not, statistically, I just think Ronaldo had that cutting edge in front of goal, and he was a sensational player as well. So yeah, for me, it has to be Messi, especially with the World Cup. Again, people don't want to put individual trophies, team trophies involved, but Messi carried Argentina, so he's cemented it. So if it wasn't before, it definitely is now.
Yeah, I hear that. Do you think Ronaldo expected a big European team to sign him? Do you think he anticipated someone coming in and Al Nassr not being a viable option initially? Abid, what's your take?
I think he expected a Sporting Just I know that's not a big European team, but like he wanted to go Champions League. He would have taken anyone. Like he would have taken anyone. He wanted to cement Mr.
Do you
Champions
not
League.
think Sporting wanted him?
I think they did, but I don't think they could afford it.
Yeah, that's the issue for me. I don't think many teams could afford him, to be honest.
That's the problem. No one can give 500 bags out like that.
You know the
It's
thing?
just not easy.
Ronaldo's clearly not skin. I wouldn't mind being a fiver behind him, let's be brutally honest. For the last season or 2 seasons of your career, why not just do Sporting a deal and play cut price? I know people say, oh, you're cutting yourself short. Mate, you've got legacy to think about over pound notes sometimes.
We could say the same about Messi and Barcelona, though, innit? Like Messi could have stayed at Barca, but
yeah, he could have. Look at Daniel Alves.
Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean?
Messi had the option at PSG. What did Ronaldo option have? More cash playing 2 years. He's got a 6-year deal with Al Nassr. 6 years. I don't see him making past 18 months, if I'm being brutally honest.
No, he'll be playing for 2 years, and then when the World Cup's about to happen in Saudi, no, wait, when's that? That's ages away, actually.
Yeah,
there's some partnership.
That's in 6 years. That's why, basically.
Yeah, there's a deal for 2 years playing, and then 4 years as an ambassador.
Yeah,
mate, that's a long time to be beating the drum for about a World Cup, isn't it? Like, it's a long time.
I mean, listen, it's a long time, but it's also a lot of money. I think you need to factor in the fact that he's getting 200 million a year. If you actually break it down, if I'm not mistaken, that's more than Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe put together.
It's over 3 times Mbappe's salary.
Think about it.
It's literally all 3 of their wages together. So, look, obviously, people will say, money is not an option for Ronaldo. Firstly, we don't know his situation. We're assuming that it's not an option. But secondly, that kind of money will set your grandkids. Like, that is ridiculous money. Like, that's going to set up your family for life. He's never going to have a worry. What he's leaving behind. Of course, people think about these things. Football's career is not long. He could have went back to Sporting. He could have potentially done well. Obviously, again, we don't know why he didn't do that. But for me, like he said, he's conquered Europe. He's got absolutely nothing to prove to anybody. And I think that's the most disappointing thing. A lot of people are basically throwing slander on his name for whatever reason. And he's literally got nothing to prove to anybody. He's achieved everything you need to do in Europe. He's literally conquered it. And look, if he wants to go and get that final payday, man, go get the bag, man. Honestly, at the end of the day, there's not many people will say no to that. Regardless of what people are saying on socials, I'm sorry. If someone offers you 200 million a year, that is absolutely ridiculous. That's like, I mean, I'm not great at maths. What's that, like 40 million? I don't even know. I'm not even embarrassed myself here. Like fucking 4 million a month or something stupid. Probably more than that. But yeah, it's way more than that. What I'm on about. Yes, that's 40 million a month. Sorry.
I just hope they got good. I just hope they got good chefs at Al Nassr. That's all I'm going to say. I hope the cooking department's on point because he'll be on the.
They've got everything. They've got everything there. Don't worry. Have you seen his apartment? He's living in the King's Suite. He's got a 2-floor apartment. It's got 15 rooms, mate. The guy's living life, man. I don't think people need to worry about Ronaldo. Don't worry, you'll be fine.
Love that. Gentlemen, I've got to say, I've thoroughly enjoyed your company and time today. Before I let you go, is there any gripes or anything you'd like to touch on with the season so far? Abid, what are you thinking?
So I've been slandered many a time on these podcasts, 3 times. So there's 3 statements I made. There's one when we were with the Arsenal fan. The first, I forgot his name. Very good guy. The first one.
Stephen, yes.
I said Lisandro Martinez will be top 2 centre-back in the league. And you both laughed at me.
I did laugh.
That was after, Osman, that was after the Brentford game.
Oh, okay. Well, fair play to you.
He did.
The second thing...
And I did mock him, and so did Arsenal fan Stephen, to be honest.
The second thing I said was Liverpool are going down, which was with you two.
Yeah,
and you both... Osman laughed at me. And I still...
Oh, yeah. No, I was just about... I don't even remember, but I know I would have laughed because I actually thought they'd be well in the title race.
Trust me, Abid remembers. When he gets laughed
at... No, but I'm happy
back,
to be wrong, mate. I'm happy to be wrong every day of the week on Liverpool, mate. Enjoy it. I'm enjoying it with you.
And finally, the last thing I said was top 4. The top 4 is still, at the start of the season, You all laughed at me. You're not laughing now.
Right.
Is that
Oh, wow. Man dropped the
Nigel,
Nigel Farage on us.
Nigel Farage? But yeah, I mean, we should. I think the only problem will be the legs at the end of the season. What Europa League stage we're going to be at? What FA Cup stage we're going to be at? How many games we're going to have to play? But hopefully, inshallah, we'll get the top four. That's it.
Mm.
What's your closing statement?
Yeah, I just wanted to finish on this. Not to do with Man United, to be fair, but just to remind everyone that Chelsea has spent $500 million in six months to scrape a draw against Nottingham Forest and get slapped every week. Absolutely wash club. You can buy as many players as you want, you're still not getting top four. You finished. But yeah, that's all I want to say. And also Liverpool, your shit as well, regardless of what anyone says. So yeah, happy days. And you paid the refs. That was definitely onside against Wolves. Absolute disgrace. But apart from that, Man United doing well, can't complain.
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for your time today. If you are watching this on our YouTube channel, please download our Pitch Football app for merchandise giveaways, tickets, fan debates, and even more. And hopefully I'll get a chance to catch up with Abid and Osimhen as the season unfolds. Thank you very much for your company, gentlemen. It's been a real pleasure. I'll see you both.
Cheers, bro.